Hey, it's Brian and Logan from IGN. How are you doing, Logan?
Good. We just played the Switch 2.
We did. So we got to play the Switch 2 today. We went hands-on. We got to play it in docked mode. We got to take off the Joy-Cons, played a ton of games. So we're going to tell you all about it. So let's get into it. Okay, I want to start with the screen quality. In handheld mode, immediately, kind of a disappointment that this isn't an OLED screen, but it still looks really good, right, Logan?
Yeah, that was one of my big disappointments from the Direct, was no OLED model, just LCD at launch. But we did a side-by-side with my OLED that I have now of the Switch 1 and the Switch 2, and the Switch 2 looked really, really nice. Mario Kart, the colors were popping, and I don't think that people are really going to miss the OLED as much as we were worried we might when we knew that this wasn't going to have OLED.
But I think ultimately they wanted to keep the price around where it is right now, which is $450, and knowing Nintendo, they'll double dip with an OLED model a few years from now. But for now, games docked look really good. In fact, games in handheld mode look really good too. But in docked mode, you can get up to 4K with some games and up to 120 FPS with some games. Both those things won't happen at the same time. But either way, the dock has a fan built in now to help maintain performance a little bit. And we got to see games like Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, Mario Kart, Metroid Prime 4. We got to play them all in docked mode, and they look really good.
Yeah, when we played Breath of the Wild, I thought this is what we've always wanted Breath of the Wild to look like. It runs so smoothly. You go to the Korok Forest, and it runs great. You fight a Guardian, you're slashing, it looks great. You set a whole grassy plain on fire, no frame drops. It looks and runs really, really nice. So yeah, not sure if it's I need to play this again nice, but is a really nice upgrade for anyone who's going to revisit those games.
Yeah, or if you skipped them the first time around and the Switch 2 is your first time getting into the Nintendo ecosystem, then, those are some of the best games of all time. So I'm actually kind of jealous that you get to play them with higher fidelity visuals for the first time, because I'll never get that time back. But you know what? I loved that time. I want to move on to the build quality of the system itself. A lot of the concerns around the Switch 1 were very justified when it came to things like Joy-Con drift and really just the feel of the system itself. Feeling a little wobbly, kind of toyetic, not necessarily very sturdy, especially the launch model. The Switch 2 feels great. Just holding the system feels like a high quality device. Buttons feel really good. Sticks feel really good. We have a few apprehensions about all of that, but in the meantime, holding the system actually felt like a premium product. How did you feel about that?
Yeah, I loved it. I was really impressed with the build quality of it, and instantly when you hold it, you see this is why this is a $450 machine. It is very nice. It feels very premium, and again, holding it side by side with the Switch 1, you're right, the Switch 1 does look a bit more like a toy, and this one feels more like a premium console. So I really liked that. The Joy-Con are amazing. I think the Joy-Con 2 are one of the stars of this show, whether it's the mouse mode or just the better feeling buttons and sticks, and when you're playing in the split grip, they just feel nicer in your hands because they're a little bit longer, so it's just a big upgrade. I think that the big question is Joy-Con drift. We still don't know about that. They didn't say in the Direct if they're Hall effect. We still don't know today as we're recording this, so I really hope that they don't have the same drift issues that Switch 1 had, but other than that, I thought the Joy-Con were a big win.
Yeah, you would hope that Nintendo, after all the feedback and concerns and, not necessarily class action lawsuit level, but felt like it should have gotten close enough. Most of my Joy-Cons ended up drifting over the last 7 or 8 years, that they would be focusing on making this a better quality system when it came to that specifics in regard to that, but we haven't found that out yet. But in the meantime, holding it, playing it felt really great. You got to do a thing where you took the Joy-Cons on and off and put them on upside down, and it worked?
Yeah, it does work. They pop right in there like you would think they would. We don't know if they actually function that way, but yeah, you can pop them in, and it's not like Switch 1 where if you put on a grip the wrong way, you might have to use a knife or something to pry it off. It was really easy to just snap on and off, and yeah, we have to talk about that. Just the magnetic lock, there was some concern, are these going to shake out? Are they going to fall out? No, they are locked in there. You can't yank them off. They don't have the same amount of wiggle that your Switch 1 Joy-Con do on the rails nowadays if you've had them for several years, but it's so easy to pop them off just by holding that button and yanking them off. So yeah, I think that the switch from the slide to the snap-on is a really good one.
I also think I clicked them on and off today like 25 times because it's so
satisfying.
It's so satisfying. Yeah, I really loved it. Okay, so the new Joy-Cons themselves, we got to play with them today. We got to use pointer controls. We got to use mouse controls. There's a lot of new sort of functionality under the hood. We got to play games in mouse mode. We got to play Metroid Prime 4 with pointer controls and stick controls and seamlessly take the Joy-Con, place it down sideways on the table, and a little reticle immediately popped up on the screen, and you just instantly jumped into mouse controls. I thought that was super cool.
Yeah, that was really surprising. I would have thought you'd have to go into a menu or pull up a new controller sync thing to get into mouse mode, but you don't. Like Brian was saying, you're holding the split Joy-Con, you put one down vertically on the table, that reticle appears, and now you have a functioning Joy-Con mouse. And I played the entire Metroid Prime 4 demo with mouse controls, and it works really, really well. Sometimes you have to awkwardly crane your thumb or your pointer finger down to hit a face button since you're holding it in that weird new way. But otherwise, the aiming worked really, really well. I felt like I was actually doing better at the combat with the mouse controls. So yeah, and we saw mouse controls with a ton of other stuff too, like Mario Party minigames.
Yeah, and some stuff that I didn't like as much, like drag and drive, which I think that's more of a game issue, but actually controlling it, I had some issues with. But the Mario Party minigames we played were really fun. When we found out Nintendo was doing controls for something like this, we were kind of like, well, obviously this makes perfect sense for like an RTS game like Civ, but what if you could literally use it to drag and drop emails? And we played an email mini game in Mario Party where you're just moving emails around a screen. The bad ones from Bowser go in the trash. The good ones go in the save bin or whatever it is, whatever Toad is doing. We also played an air hockey mini game with them. So all of that felt really good. Again, don't know if drift is going to be an issue, but the Joy-Cons themselves feel high quality, which is important because they're $90 a pair now.
Yes, they are. They are very pricey, and we also got a good look at the Joy-Con 2 strap, which have mouse feet on them now, so you can use mouse mode without the wrist straps, but it feels like a computer mouse when you add that wrist strap on, and it is thinner. It is a little awkward in the hand. I think if you have bigger hands, it might feel a little bit tight, but no, the mouse feet on the Joy-Con strap make it feel really good if you have the right surface, too. I tried it on the back of your hand.
You tried it on the back of my hand,
yeah. It kind of worked.
It kind of worked.
Yeah.
Yeah. So most of the demos we played today that use mouse controls literally had a mouse pad on the table. And so obviously that's probably not something you're going to be traveling with. So Nintendo's going to have to figure out different ways that this is going to have to work on different surfaces. Because like if you're playing on your leg, which they actually did tell people to do in one demo, it'll work. If you're playing on the back of my hand, you might have some problems. But also if you're playing on the back of my hand on a bus, then somebody call the police. I want to get into some other details about the Switch 2 that we got to experience today. The Kickstand. Definitely an improvement over the launch model Nintendo Switch 1 Kickstand. Probably not as great as the one on the Switch OLED.
Yeah, so this is like a U-shaped kickstand. You've probably seen it if you've looked at the renders of the Switch 2, but the Switch 1 launched with a very flimsy kickstand that was easy to break, and you could even lose that piece. And then the OLED was kind of the whole bottom half of the backside of the console was the kickstand. This one's kind of the middle ground. It is a U-shaped design that still spans the entire console, and you can still put it at any angle you want, but I could see it like if it gets crushed or dropped, it could get bent and warped out of shape. So yeah, it's not a huge concern of mine, but I think the OLED one is a little bit nicer.
Now, the Nintendo GameCube had something called the C stick, with that little yellow nub. Nintendo has brought the C back with the C button, which is now on every Switch 2, and it calls up game chat. So we didn't get to use that specifically because it's a very busy environment, right? We're in a demo area, but we did get to press it a bunch, and we did get to experience some of the interactions that happen with it. Specifically, there is a camera that you can buy for your Switch 2 that's $50. We let it basically film us and put us in Mario Party minigames where we're coming in and out of pipes. We yelled and jumped around, and it registered those movements and sounds, and based on which of us could scream louder, we got awarded points. And in classic Mario Party fashion, your team won 2 rounds, my team won 1 round, but my team won the whole thing.
Enough.
Yeah,
that's all you need.
That's all you need is one round. So yeah, some of that stuff, it's sort of low quality in terms of like the visual aesthetic, and I'm not expecting the best sound out of this thing, but it's pretty cool that there is like a built-in microphone now that theoretically will work with game chat with friends.
Yeah, I got flashbacks to WarioWare Snapped, the DSiWare game, if you remember that from way back in the day when they showed off the camera, but it functions much better than that. I felt like it was tracking our motions pretty accurately. We were playing the mini games and didn't really have any huge issues. And yeah, like you said, we didn't get to test out my face is appearing in my box on the Mario Party board and you can see me react when you steal my star. We didn't do that yet, but what we saw looked cool, and we also know that it will work with other USB-C cameras, so you don't have to buy the Nintendo Switch 2 camera, but certain ones will be compatible. We don't have a list of those, but yeah, it's cool to see that it's not proprietary. You can bring your own camera and plug it in to see if it works.
Lastly, we got to go hands-on with the new Nintendo Switch 2 Pro controller. Yes. I got that title right?
That's right, yeah.
Not the Nintendo 2 Switch Pro 2 controller or anything like that. Nintendo Switch 2 Pro controller, which feels awesome.
Yes.
One of the best feeling video game controllers they've made. The Switch 1 Pro controller, like battery life was insane. Build quality was really good. I had some issues with the D-pad and you know, usual sort of stick problems that you get with a lot of modern controllers these days. But this one, at least, it's got Amiibo support. It's got a headphone jack. Finally, it's crazy the last one didn't. We didn't get to stress test the battery life on the unit itself just yet, but I'm hoping this becomes another hit and that the D-pad works out really well. We got to play some games with it, but didn't really get to play like twitchy, you know, 2D platformers, fighting games, Tetris, or anything like that. So what are your thoughts on Pro Controller?
Yeah, it felt like second verse, same as the first. I thought it was a really solid, just kind of iterative step on the Switch 1 Pro Controller. Like you hold it, it feels pretty much the same. It does have the new GL and GR buttons, which are for the grip. And I press them, they feel nice. I think they might get in the way a little bit. You might press them unintentionally sometimes, but they weren't mapped to anything in the demos we saw, so we don't fully know how those are going to work in practice. But no, the Pro Controller is great. I thought it felt really premium, just like the Switch 1 one did, and we'll just have to see. Yeah, none of the games we played really were stress tests on the D-pad. It wasn't like a Tetris or something like that, so jury's still out on if they improved that, but I thought the controller itself was really great.
Yeah, it's interesting to see them do programmable back paddles. Like this is, you know, this is new for them. This is something the Steam Deck has, and Microsoft has done with their controllers before. So all in all, it feels like they are sort of like servicing a lot of the needs of more pro hardcore gamers who have wanted things like 4K or 120 FPS or programmable back paddles and voice chat and all this stuff that, like, you know, I think historically has not really been aligned with Nintendo hardware, and this is the kind of stuff they're working on now. So some of that does come with some concerns, obviously. Like the price, $450 is it kind of stings. And seeing battery life can be anywhere between 2 and 6.5 hours in handheld mode. I have a feeling a game like Cyberpunk is going to run that thing into the ground in 2 hours, whereas like if you're playing Mario Kart, you might get a couple more than that.
Yeah, I agree. Battery life on the OLED is so good, and on that Switch 1 model that they launched shortly after launch that had the improved battery, that was a big improvement. So 2 hours, man, like if you're playing Metroid Prime 4 at 120 FPS and it only lasts 2 hours, that is not great. But like you said, this is a premium product. It feels premium, and the price reflects that it's premium. This feels like Nintendo trying to keep up and make strides alongside the handheld PC market like a Steam Deck. They're adding a lot of things that those machines have that Switch 1 just didn't have. It's kind of this new market that the Switch 1 created, and then a lot of copycats came along and made some improvements in some ways, and here's Nintendo's revision to answer some of those questions. So I think it feels really good. It is big. It is big in the hands. We compared it with an OLED, and if you put them side by side and you line them up on the left, the entirety of the Switch 2 right Joy-Con juts out from the Switch 1. So it's an entire Joy-Con wider. It's pretty big in the hands, and I think it's going to be pretty heavy in longer play sessions. I don't know if you've seen like those pillows you can get now to like strap your Switch to. So yeah, that might be something people will want because it's a hefty machine, but it's the same thickness, so it's not that beefy to hold, but it's noticeably bigger in the hands.
Well, it remains to be seen if this is going to do Switch 1 numbers again. I can't wait for it either way. It's out June 5th for $450 or $500 with the Mario Kart bundle. We have tons more coverage coming out of the Nintendo Switch 2 hands-on event here in New York City, including all the games we played. So stick around, keep watching IGN for all things Nintendo Switch 2. Thanks, Logan.
Thanks, Brian.